Schedule here, but we're finally here. Effect versus Gambit Esports. This is the lower bracket of the Perfect World Masters. So who is ever out here will be out of the qualifier for good. Gambit, well, they just lost 2-0 to Empire. Effect, they have a little bit more momentum going for themselves, just beating out Team Spirit. They've already been in the lower bracket. They won out that match 2-1, and last time they matched up against Gambit, they also won 2-0. So should be an interesting one. I do expect the Night Stalker to be heavily contested throughout this match, and in fact, Gambit just banned it out immediately. Both of these teams like to run it very much indeed, and in fact, they also take the Nature's Prophet away from Gambit. Also here that they've run twice today already up against Team Empire. My name is DragonJob, happy to bring you the series, and also happy to be joined by the one and only Franz. How are you doing, man?
Pretty good, and we should have a pretty good series coming up. You know, I'm always excited to see this Nature's Prophet hero because he just moves around the map so quickly. He usually dominates his lane, and so I think Nature's Prophet generally brings games that are quite action-packed, and so does Jakiro. You know, both of these heroes are quite good in the early game.
Yeah. Akira, one of my favorite heroes, in case you didn't know. So happy to see him even first picked, so it's not something that's it's not a position that he's used to, drafting-wise, but also start off with a puck in the first phase too, so isn't that laying down a lot of your cards too soon?
Well, you know, there's one potential support here and one core here, and there's also a core on the on effect with the Nature's Prophet, right? And I think part of the reason why people like to first pick Jakiro is because you can theoretically send him into any role. I think I've seen EG run him in the offlane. You know, Universe seemed to play a fantastic Jakiro, and so it's just quite a versatile hero. He's hard to sort of zone out a lane. He trades hits really well, and he helps your team sort of snowball into the mid game if you guys if your team gets a running start. And so, if anyone is showing too many cards at once, it's really effect. You know, they have two of their cores selected so far. Gambit have some huge potential for some counter picks. You know, I think things that generally do well against Nature's Prophet and Venomancer are heroes that you know, like heroes that lane well against Nature's Prophet, and then heroes with high mobility that can catch both the Venomancer and Nature's Prophet later into the game.
Yeah. Puck definitely brings that mobility here. Some of the classic textbook counters have been taken out in the first phase by effects, so which would be the Spirit Breaker and the Nyx Assassin, so Gambit will not be able to fall back on those, but yeah, there's plenty of heroes that can help out in that regard as well. I mean, this puck could still be an offlaner even. They could potentially go back for something like an Invoker if they really want to. That extra bit of long-range artillery when you catch a Nature's Prophet, but we'll see what they decide. For now, they're batting out the Necrophos as well as the Viper, so kind of limiting the poison damage from effect to some degree.
Yeah, and Viper would also just give them a favorable matchup, I think. Whenever you think about playing against a Nature's Prophet, you have to wonder how you're going to actually deal with a Nature's Prophet in lane, but also the other lanes, right? Because if theoretically, if Effect win two of their lanes, the game becomes really easy for them because Nature's Prophet and Venomancer are both heroes that excel at pressuring the enemy team when they're ahead. And so Gambit have to probably focus on their early game, so banning heroes like Necrophos and Viper, who are typically lane dominators,
Yeah.
is probably a good call by them.
So basically heroes that can kind of trade hits with their opponent very well, so for the Nature's Prophet then to take advantage of, TP into the back, and convert those into kills, I guess.
Yeah,
No
precisely.
idea.
But
Yeah.
also just generally stopping. You want to stop a scenario where the Nature's Prophet can just roll over all of your towers, you know, so TP to a lane, summon Treants, and then that lane's already winning.
Yep.
And so it just becomes harder and harder to fight back, especially if you don't have wave clear. But in this case, Gambit actually have a good amount of wave clear. And
Yep.
they also have a hero that's generally good and generally eager to take early game fights. So Bloodseeker's quite a good pick for Gambit Esports, you know. He the rupture is pretty deadly for Venomancer because Venomancer doesn't really have any ways to mitigate it other than a TP. And
Yeah.
then for effect, they pick Disruptor, which is a hero that excels at catching Puck and Bloodseeker. So
Yeah.
should be quite an interesting early game. And I think this meta is really defined by early game timings. I think teams are starting to understand that you can't get away with greedy lineups this patch just because it's so easy with the new siege creep to just roll over all of your opponent's towers.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of emphasis on that first 5 minutes, because if you gain an advantage somehow in the first 5 minutes, it becomes easier to take towers. And then when you take towers, you gain map control, and with that map control, it becomes easy to control heroes like Bloodseeker, Puck, Venomancer, because these heroes don't want to farm in dangerous places. Well, Puck can do it quite well, but Bloodseeker and Venomancer cannot.
Yeah. Speaking of map control, Bounty Hunter now being in the 4th position pickup here for Gambit Esports, so they'll have that hero to walk in the backlines into enemy territory. Keep an eye on these movements, these rotations, especially early on the Disruptor. Could potentially even snag up a kill here and there, depending on where they are. But okay, I'm not sure if they expected this one. Broodmother coming out. Bloodseeker, decent against it once you have that the blood right, but normally you don't have it until much later.
Yeah, but also the spiders can run out of the blood right? So I think Gambit Esports, their best option to deal with this broodmother is to kill or is to pressure her as much as possible in the early game before she hits level 3 and 5.
Yep.
Because 3 and 5 is really when the spiders get out of control. And although Gambit kind of have some answers for it, like you have the Jakiro that has a fair amount of AoE, perhaps not enough, but enough to sort of deter her from just pushing towers. But Bounty Hunter is actually one of the heroes that is not too bad against Broodmother, because you can put a sentry down and you can sort of find her and slow her so that your Bloodseeker and Jakiro can run up for the kill. But
Yep.
Gambit Esports, their lineup doesn't feel well configured to play against Effect, just because Effect have so much sort of push potential right now, right? Even if you deal with the Broodmother, you have to worry about the Nature's Prophet and Venomancer pushing your other lanes. And so, again, a big emphasis, especially this game for Gambit Esports, because I think Effect definitely have the advantage in the early to mid game.
Is there another last pick for Gambit that can kind of try and mitigate that? Like for the off lane or even for mid lane if they want to run the puck there?
It's hard to say. It depends on their skill set, but I think they need to just focus on making sure that they come out of the laning phase either ahead or break even, because Gambit, they still have a lot of gank potential. I think if this bounty hunter finds the right lanes to bug, then he'll have a really good early game, just because they have so much kill potential. Puck and Bloodseeker are both heroes that generally like to trade hits, generally are good at following up on kill attempts by the bounty hunter, especially when the enemy team sort of has these squishy heroes, Disruptor, Venomancer, and Nature's Prophet. I think Gambit have to focus on trying to get kills early in the early game, just so that Effect can't capitalize on their pushing heroes.
Actually, would have liked the Earthshaker for them for these kind of reasons. Would have fit up quite nicely with Gambit, and well, I guess if they want to double down on that, they could also still go for a hero like Legion Commander. Normally a counter towards a Broodmother, you just throw down one spell when you know where the spiders are and you get rid of most of them. Blink Duel later will be pretty good against pretty much all of Effect's heroes.
Yep, but at the same time, I feel like Gambit, they need an initiator. They need a hero to help them actually find these kills, and there's not a lot of them left, just because Effect banned like Spearbreaker, Nyx, Sand King, Night Stalker are also banned. So if anything, I think Gambit still need a hero to start fights, just because right now they have almost no forms of catch.
Oh. We'll see. They still have a minute left. I don't think they'll go back for Tidehunter here. It's kind of fallen out of the meta. Almost completely, hasn't it? It's been a while since I've seen that hero around.
Yeah, I think Tidehunter as a hero is just too slow. He farms quickly, but if the enemy team sees that you have a Tidehunter, then they begin to start avoiding you for the first 10 to 15 minutes. Just because that hero doesn't want to move around the map quickly, and he also doesn't win his lane as convincingly as some other like heroes of similar effect. Like I think Void is a good example of like a tanky team fight potential off laner, or like even Earthshaker.
Oh, okay. Didn't have this one in mind, but I guess I was kind of expecting that this puck might not necessarily end up mid and still run into that offlane in that offlane position. Or
Yeah, and
Bloodseek as
so
well for that matter. So Kuman on the Alchemist now. Huh.
this sort of switches the pace for Gambit Esports, right? Because instead of playing against the enemy's timing, now they have their own timing as well. So
Yeah.
the effect have to be worried about the Alchemist at the same time. So Alchemist is one of these heroes I think that are picked when you want the timing of your lineup to be a lot earlier, just because this hero excels at farming up a lot in the early game, and then in the mid game he becomes this dominant force that moves around with your team, helps you create space, helps you take towers, and really I think Gambit are looking to end this game early before the full split push on effect kicks in.
Yeah. In the meantime, you also have just the obvious bonus on Kuman whenever you've had once he has that Radiance up and running and he runs into the Nature's Prophetrians or Broodmother Spiderlings. There's just so much extra money, so Effect have to be even more careful about feeding those than they normally would have to be in a normal game.
Yep, and to add to that point, it also gives Gambit Esports another hero that likes to move out and push lanes, which
Yeah.
reduces the effect of effects split push later in the game.
See what he did there?
Right.
If you wanted to or not. But yes.
As I was thinking of the words, I was like, oops. Yeah, a quick pun there.
At least it's not the dire that we're dealing with here
The
on the Radiant
dire.
side. It's I'm still annoyed at that.
I just started calling them PPD's team or TD,
Yeah.
but now they have
Oh yeah.
a new banner with optics, so
Yeah.
hashtag green wall.
I haven't had to cast him yet, so but I was also gonna just call him TD. But yeah, it looks like that might change in general overall. But yeah, for now, Gambit still have to pick their heroes. Most of them anyway.
So I believe that Effect have sort of an advantage in the lanes, and the only way Gambit can sort of make up for that is with the Bounty Hunter, because I think this Broodmother should have an easy lane if Mag gets set up pretty well in the first couple of waves. As soon as Broodmother hits level 3, the lane becomes problematic for Gambits, but Gambit can kind of mitigate that through ganking with Bignum and Always Wanna Fly and the Bounty Hunter and the Jakiro. And then at the same time, they sort of have to defend their Alchemist against, I think, a potential Venomancer mid.
Yeah, it looks like it. Alpha Ninja picking that up now. Probably don't want to run the Broodmother mid now with Koopman being there. Can't really make use of the Spiderlings as effectively.
So there's a little bit of an odd laning scenario here. So Venomancer his Venomancer's kill potential really kicks in at level 4 with level 2 Gale and level 2 Poison Sting. Both of those spells, they double up in their DPS at level 2, and so Alchemist is going to have a lot of trouble from the level 4 mark onward. But at the same time, Venomancer can't really pressure Alchemist for the first couple of levels, so I think that's when it comes to Disruptor and Earthshaker to come and help Effect deal with Alchemist, because as soon as Alchemist hits level 5, Alchemist starts wants to move to the jungle just because it's a lot safer there, and because he's a lot more efficient at farming jungle creeps than the rest of his team, which creates space for his supports.
We'll hopefully see how this dynamic works out as the game has been on pause. So finally that strategy time will actually tick down. Didn't actually know you could pause at the end of the draft if no one's disconnected, but the more you know. Again, guys, if you're just tuning in, game number 1 here between Effect and Gambit Esports. This is the Perfect World CIS Qualifiers lower bracket. Whoever loses this series will be out for good. The winner will move on against the winner Vega Squadron versus Double Dimension. It's a game that's scheduled for later today as well, I believe. We'll see how it works out. For now, we're here in game number 1. My name is Dragondrop. I'm joined by Franz. And lanes will start taking shape.
Yeah, so I think what will really define the early to mid game for this series, or for this game 1, is whether or not this Alchemist or this Broodmother gets a good start. Because if one gets a good start and the other does not, then I think the team that had that good start wins quite convincingly, obviously. But you know, I say that because Alchemist and Broodmother are both heroes that snowball really well, but they're also heroes that kind of reverse snowball, right? Broodmother is not a hero that catches up easily from a deficit, and neither is Alchemist, especially when the enemy team on effect have so many heroes that are good at pressuring the Alchemist. You know, you have Nature's Prophet to kind of move around and help push out lanes, and then you have Disruptor and Earthshaker to help catch the Alchemist.
Yep.
30 seconds to
So now it actually is Max setting up in mid lane here with that early web. Bignum keeping an eye on this as well.
And see, that's actually quite a smart move from Bignum to scout out the Broodmother. I don't know if this was intentional, but it gives a lot of information for Gambit, right? Because now they know where to place their sentries, they know which lane is potentially going to have issues. And so knowing where the Broodmother is helps them sort of prepare for it.
Even you sneak the bounty rune here, not quite. But he can throw out some right clicks here onto Mag. Also got out that there's only one sentry on the Broodmother for the time being, but I don't think there's any sentry on the way from mid, regardless here for Team Gambit.
You know, I don't know how this matchup normally works, but my instinct tells me that they're putting Broodmother mid because the Broodmother is a much harder kill than the Venomancer, because they're probably under the assumption that if the Venomancer was mid, then the Alchemist and the Bounty Hunter would win that lane by default. So now they sort of put the harder hero to kill in the mid lane, and then they have the Venomancer pressuring top lane instead.
Yep. Well, I've seen Broodmothers in the early levels especially just die really, really fast, but that always involves some sort of stun and hard lockdown. All they really have with Bounty Hunter is a bit of slow. No damage to speak of either between him and the Alchemist, especially with the Grievous Greed first.
And I think part of the reason why Venomancer as a hero is so successful is because the hero really only needs levels in order to succeed. So as long as he's getting experience, then he's fine. And so, you know, if the mid lane is too dangerous for him, then it probably is a good call to move him into the off lane.
Get some extra help here. King R looking for a bit of extra harassment, but Puck, Cheshire Cat, he's used to the off lane position, so he'll probably hold on to his illusory orb to be able to get himself out of trouble. And meanwhile, we have down bottom Sadoy in a 1 position. Like, it's also not an easy lane for the Bloodseeker, is it?
So if Effect do a good job of sort of pressuring the Bloodseeker, I think he's fine, but he has a Poor Man Shield, and as long as the Nature's Prophet doesn't like over farm or like out level the Bloodseeker too hard, it should be easy for the Bloodseeker, because Bloodseeker can sort of sustain himself in the lane, and Nature's Prophet can't deliver enough burst damage to really have kill potential on this Bloodseeker, especially if Bloodseeker has a Poor Man Shield and keeps his health up.
Yeah. Managing to find all the right clicks that he needs, so it'll offset any sort of right click chip damage between the right clicks as well as the treants. Bignum coming back in here, scouted out by the Sentry Ward, I believe. Zeke will know to keep himself safe. So far so good.
Yeah, and the Broodmother mid also does has like two purposes. I think he lanes better against Alchemist in theory, but also it gives Bignum fewer options when it comes to roaming around on the Bounty Hunter, because in an ideal Bounty Hunter game, actually there might be some action bottom lane.
The Huck's done up here as King R makes rotation here. He's actually dropping super low. Zeke going to drop down a kinetic field as necessary, but Sadoy looks to have plenty of right clicks here, especially with the extra vision. Dahak will end up falling. Bignum though, he's grabbed the first blood just before that onto Zeke. So, I guess mitigating the damage here. Now Bloodseeker comes right back.
Right before that happened, I was saying how Bounty Hunter, ideally he has at least one lane where he can get stuff done, but looks like in this lane it's going to be bottom lane since that first split occurred, and they're looking for more.
But it comes in from the side kinetic field as well. Bignum might now actually be in trouble here. Plenty of right clicks as the Ice Path. Early point into that one. A little bit too late to disrupt it.
Yeah, and a really good counter initiation from Effect there.
Yeah. They didn't expect King R to still stick around in the trees, I believe. Now of Phase Boots on Nature's Prophet, I'll buff up his fighting potential.
You can just see, now that Nature's Prophet has Phase Boots, this lane is much easier for Sidoi because he now has the damage to sort of get past that poor man's shield.
Go again, Dark. Throws down a Blood Right, only point into this one, but his way out is being blocked. He's looking for some right clicks to keep his health up. Meanwhile, Arzeek dies again to the supports from Gambit, and they didn't actually have quite enough damage to finish off the Bloodseeker without Arzeek also laying into him. Now, King R. Kind of in between enemy lines, but he's tanky enough in his own right, so Bignum will just stick to stealing some battle runes.
Yeah, it feels like Arzeek is just sort of underestimating the amount of damage he's taking from this Jakiro and Bounty Hunter, and so
Yep.
definitely feel like Gambit are winning this exchange in the bottom lane if they manage to get their Bloodseeker back up to health, and it looks like they will. They pulled the lane, so Bloodseeker should be last sitting under the tower, and will be able to reset in this lane.
Yep. Alright, so they're kind of winning bottom. Middle lane is a bit of a wash. Mac has kept most of the Spiderlings outside of the Acid Spray for the time being, and also farmed the jungle, same as the Alchemist now. Kuman made his way, just got his level 6 here, even found himself the Mud Golems, does double stacks, so middle lane kind of even, would you say?
Yeah, it's kind of even, and as I mentioned in the draft phase, you know, this is the stage where Alchemist sort of prefers to be in the jungle, just so his support.
Gonna go again, Dark, actually super low, still no glimpse available, but Kinetic Field will keep him on the tower. Alright, that changes the map a little bit here for this bottom lane.
Yeah, it does, and so Nature's Prophet's off to a quite a good start, relatively speaking, and so I wouldn't be surprised if we see him make a rotation in the next few minutes, especially with these siege creeps spawning. For example, you know, this puck is really susceptible to being ganked right now, or, you know, this top tower in general is really open. But it looks like Nature's Prophet will TP bottom.
Puck almost ticked out of the Gale. It's 3 points into it, so Venwasa going for the complete man build. No points in wards at all. Sometimes you don't just go 2-2 and then max out the wards, but only now putting up his first point into it. Meanwhile down bottom, yeah, they find King R, big them with the invis. Damage over time there, and Ice Path, not quite enough to keep him in Blood Right, but enough to secure the kill for Bignum.
What a good kill from Gambit.
Yeah.
You know, Kuman's sort of doing a good job of rotating between the jungle and the lane when he needs to. As long as he knows that these supports on effect are in the bottom lane, he's willing to be in the lane, but whatever the Disruptor or the Earthshaker are missing for too long, he definitely has to back off. There's just way too much kill potential, especially if you bring in Sidoi on the Nature's Prophet.
Yep. But now he's right on the money, right on path. Max last hits in this game. And meanwhile another fight down bottom. Dark in the middle of that, he once again gets blocked off, but he gets a few right clicks to delay his death. Arzeek should fall again, even with the dust coming out, but always on fly. Another stun from King R, untouched so far in this fight. Sidoi, well, that TP will be cancelled. Bignum, he's the one getting himself a double kill, so I guess he's thinking he's the real carry in this game.
Yep, he's almost equal net worth with the Bloodseeker as well.
4-1-1 as opposed to 0-3-3 on Dahak. Feels good if you're the bounty, feels bad if you're the Bloodseeker, I guess.
Yeah, and so this is probably Bignum's chance to sort of make a lot of space for his team, and up top.
Is he gonna get out here? He is. Oh man, and he should be fine with the Fairy Fire especially. Cheshire Cat, he threw out the orb. Sidoi and Nafu Ninja both like went after the orb, but then he ended up TPing without jaunting to it first. So hey, outplayed, I guess.
And so, yeah, and this isn't really like a bad scenario for Dahak to be behind his Bounty Hunter, just because Bloodseeker sort of relies on his teammates to help finish his kills, especially since he doesn't have a stun to follow up on the Rupture. So, you know, as long as he gets his Rupture and Dahak, or sorry, as long as Bignum sort of helps Bloodseeker catch up back into the game, it'll be fine.
And go for King R here, a lot of damage over time from Jakiro, level 2 dual breath, and that should be enough to eventually take him out despite the kinetic field. Dahak also making his way in. That kill will be shared, Sidoi also coming in to try and turn things around a little bit, and yeah, they don't want to take that melee. Luckily for them, Arzeek also out of mana for a glimpse, so now they'll be able to try and up and be fine. Meanwhile, up top, the Alpha Ninja. He's had complete free farm as well. Same for the Brood Mother, but so has the Alchemist. Ooman, he's also going straight for the Radiance, not really opting to go for the armlet that they sometimes do, just to have an extra tool up against all these spiders and all the treants.
Yeah.
So
and so Alchemists, they usually get the armlet just to have a lot more survivability when they're farming up that Radiance, but it also helps in these early game engagements. But perhaps Kuman figuring that the Radiance is far too important this game, especially against the Brood Mother.
And going on right now, he's not going to lose too much goal. Actually, might. It's all unreliable that he has, but he getting some help of his own. 4 heroes for now on the Radiant side. Kuman, level 1 Chemical Rage, will keep himself safe on a level 4 Acid Spray. Big rotation here, it's no gain. And now top lane, Bignum. Keeping tabs on Alpha Ninja. Darkseid throws down the Rupture, and there's not a whole lot that Venomancer can do here, is there?
Not
Silenced
much,
up.
no.
Yeah, should just be a free kill eventually. Gale comes out, but I don't think that hack really cares too much.
And with
Cheshire
that
Cat.
kill,
Okay, he finds the door, or the door finds the puck. Who knows at this point. One more right click, not quite enough. I think he dodged this one, but his ultimate bouncing back. Damn. That was crazy.
so getting a little bit of hits from Bignum. Oh,
Flying mid. Well, he really wants to tell Smack will be able to get the last hit there, most likely. And he does with all these spiders.
and so it's hard to say who's having the better game right now, but it definitely feels like Effect are on track to win this game, just because they're even net worth with a team that does have the Alchemist. Relatively speaking, you know, this Puck and this Bloodseeker are sort of behind. They've been shut down in their lanes, and so I think the game will really come down to is whether or not Gambit can get a couple of team fights with this Radiance and with Track coming up on Bignum.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if Gambit sort of make a smoke play as soon as Kuman gets an armlet.
Yep. In this sort of this double-edged sword with the Alchemist on your team, sure, he can farm like Madman, and he is this game. But if you put all your eggs in this Alchemist basket, it's just might just end up being a liability, because if he does get caught out, if he does get bursted down somehow in the beginning of a team fight, then all of this net worth doesn't really work in your favor at all.
That is true, but it's just the nature of Alchemist lineups, right? Like your heroes make space for the Alchemist, and then the Alchemist makes space for you.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're on purpose putting all their eggs in one basket. It just unfolded this way, especially since they sort of put their lanes in a configuration where the Puck didn't have the best lane and the Bloodseeker didn't have the best lane. But at the same time, you could say, you know, Effect perhaps drafted a little bit better in the early game.
Well, might turn into a bit of a melee down bottom. Bignum will scouting him out as he makes his way back. Jakiro just throws down a Macropie to get rid of some of these creeps. And we're going to play Wards, obviously, that they're in force as well, up to level 4 now, so it's hard to kind of burn through them. But it doesn't look like Effect really want to commit too hard just yet, especially with the track starting to pile up. So for now,
And so I
Kuman,
think
yeah.
with this sequence of events, I believe that Gambit will be in a better position because they're farming all 3 lanes. Effect sort of have a bunch of these heroes in the bottom lane, including their 2 cores, Nature's Prophet and Venomancer. And so Gambit are getting way more out of the map right now, and that's sort of a problem for them, because they're playing against an Alchemist, and I think ideally against an Alchemist you're ganking him as much as possible. And you know, Effect, they have 2 of their cores stuck in the bottom lane. The Nature's Prophet and the Venomancer are starting to fall behind. You know, the Bloodseeker starting to overtake them, so perhaps Effect putting a little bit too much emphasis on this tier 1 tower bottom.
Also looks like Bloodseeker is going back for the Midas, so it's pretty close. Not the quickest timing, obviously, but it will allow him to catch up and kind of keep up with his own Alchemist. It's only 3rd in net worth, so it's not the worst. On the Radiant side, you're looking towards Mag, perhaps, on the Broodmother, to just try and be a little bit more aggressive, but so far he's just stuck around with his webs, just farming up the mid lane, rushing it a little bit more, and mostly just farming up the ancient camps.
Yeah. Kuman just about done, or has finished his armlet actually, working on those travels, and I think this is with these travels, or even before the travels, I think Gambit are well positioned to fight because Effect their lineup is a little bit snowball oriented, you know, like the Broodmother, Venomancer, Nature's Prophet. I envisioned a game where they were just pressuring globally, you know, like they're putting pressure on all three lanes. Gambit, ideally for Effect, Gambit don't have a lot of room to farm, but it feels like Effect really haven't done anything to address this Alchemist or this Bloodseeker. And so I think if they continue the pace at this rate, I believe Gambit.
Ouch, Mag with a huge army of creeps. And now, Zeke actually cut out by Bignum, so it'll be an extra tracker. Man, Sadoi also TPing in this. Do you still want to take a fight here? I'm not sure about this one, Alpha Ninja. With the Gale not connecting. They're going on Kuman though, and his Chemical Rage just ended. Does have some help from Dahak though. Mag just forced to sit in there, gets tracked up as well, and Dust in the back. King R will help finish out the Bounty Hunter. So far, so good. Dahak very low, so's Kuman. As Alpha Ninja comes in from the side. Throws down the ultimate, will not quite connect, so Bloodseeker will be just fine. Bringing down the big guy, Alchemist. Allowed him to keep going for this fight. Sadoi just way too strong. Same for Broodmother. They're just running into this fight with no contest.
So perhaps Effect, listening to a little bit of what I said, decide to put some pressure back on Gambit. I mean, that was a fantastic fight for them. I think perhaps the opening that they saw was that the Alchemist was relatively, I think, half HP, and his ultimate was down, so it was quite an easy kill on the Alchemist. And so, you know, Effect, they net a little bit of a lead. You know, 1k, about a 1.5k swing through that.
By the way, what do you think about the Broodmother Radiance? Mac got that also up pretty early. Like, sometimes you see Broodmothers go for this minus armor heavy build, or the Orchid. What do you make of this decision?
I think that the Radiance build is sort of a farming item for Broodmother, so it's perhaps Mag recognizing that this game will go quite a bit longer, just because Gambit have a lot of ways to counter push, and so this Radiance gives Broodmother a lot of farming speed she normally wouldn't have, just because she has the mobility to move camp to camp, but she doesn't have the farming speed, and so with this Radiance it helps her sort of scale into the late game without too many worries.
So far it's working out. Only 2,500 here away from the Alchemist, which is a pretty impressive feat, to be quite honest. And now they're looking for Zeke, scattered out by Bignum. Now the Rupture just to secure it.
And so Gambit, you know, they're getting some track kills, they're getting their other heroes a little bit more farmed. I think that's going to be really important for Gambit, because they need to have their other cores, the Puck and the Bloodseeker, in a position where they can help this Alchemist push out waves. Because the Alchemist can't really be in too many places at once, and in fact the Alchemist picks up some phase boots instead of travels, which is a little bit of an interesting pickup, considering how much split push the enemy team has.
Yeah. I mean, they had the boots of travel queued up a little bit earlier. And they also give you a lot of movement speed, and I don't think you really utilize the damage from the phase boots too much.
It's more move speed. Maybe it gets him away from the spiders.
Oh well. Not from the Blink Echo Slam though, Statics don't follow. They bring him down again, no chance to get his ultimate off. That was the Blink reveal as well, I believe, from King R. I just recently picked that up.
Yeah, and that Blink Dagger is so important, right? Because it's basically just affects teamfight initiation. So with that Blink on King R, we can probably see Effect taking a lot more of an aggressive stance against Gambit.
Zeke caught again. Visual though to help out the Rupture, keeping it in place, and he will take out to one thing or another, but they get Bignum in return, so 1-for-1 trade, but with the track kill involved. Now Cheshire Cat, showing off his own Blink Dagger. No great kill though, did hold on to the call until Mag only comes in now, but there it is, King out with follow-up control. He just straight up falls. Yeah, not sure about this one. No, Dayak, he's also not towards the end either. He has to try and run. Nice little ice path here, but Colonside Sprout will eat his way out of it. Alpha Ninja coming in from the side though with a couple of good spells. King R just continues with control. Kuman back in the fight though. Will be able to turn things around at least for his Bloodseeker, as Jakiro also ended up falling here. A lot of pressure, a lot of power here being exerted from Effect.
And there's a BKB on the Broodmother now, so Mag is going to be very hard to deal with in these fights. The only way Gambit can really deal with him is to rupture him and sort of leave him in his own corner, but that's not always the best solution, and I believe that Effect have sort of hit their stride now, and their lineup is starting to sort of kick in. All of the lanes are pushed into Gambit's side of the map, and I think this is where Effect's lineup will start to shine.
Yep. All their cores are just so strong, not just in terms of map pressure, but also damage potential. We were talking about the Broodmother, already level 22. I don't know if you mentioned that, but it's way above and beyond everyone else.
Yeah, plus 25% EXP gain on the talent tree.
Okay. Let's have the old scepter, so delaying some of that damage, but, well... all it can do here is just straight up die, the rest of the team unable to just really come in to try and help out, or unwilling, rather.
It definitely feels like Effect are being way more proactive than Gambit Esports when it comes to ganking, and so... it feels like Gambit have to sort of be proactive in this game. The only way that Gambit win this game is if they get a ton of kills, because they have a Bounty Hunter and Bloodseeker, who are heroes that rely on sort of fighting to get most of their gold.
Well, around here, that's his own sentry ward, I do believe. There's not being scouted. Maybe finds a dog. Yeah, they canceled the teleport twice, and maybe finally he's trying again, but there's a cat. Dominating kill streak in his pocket. Not the worst. Still has the call to work with if they want to put on some more pressure, perhaps, and maybe it is the rest of Effect. Well, I'm not really too concerned. They're still going, but, well, follow-up control, not quite there, but there it is. Echo Slam catches the puck, catches the bounty hunter. Tatsuri is down immediately, and now the BKB from Mag, looking for more. Oh, it's on the fly. Next one on the chopping block. Double kill, make it a third, perhaps, especially with the glimpse back here on the Bloodseeker. Yule Scepter, well, still can't get out of it. Triple kill for the Brood. Ooh, man, he just decided to just get the hell out of there immediately. He's not really fight ready without his own BKB just yet.
In effect, doing a really good job of cashing out the Gambit heroes under their tier 2 in the mid lane there, and you know, they get a tower, they get a couple kills, and it feels like they're just so ahead now that Gambit Esports, given their heroes, kind of have a lot of difficulty in these fights. I think the Bloodseeker needs at least the BKB before he can actually go in, just because Effect's heroes are so good at kiting the Bloodseeker and the Alchemist this game.
Yep. Really found a way in. And we were talking about it as well. Alchemist, he's kind of been farming, but it's also been picked up a couple of times. And his other cores have been shut down to a point where they aren't really feeling comfortable going in. It's not just the Bloodseeker, it's also the puck. He got the Blink Dagger, but they haven't really been able to convert that into anything worthwhile.
Yeah, it's just really been the sequence of the last 8 or so minutes where Effect have just been so much more proactive and so much more successful in their movements that...
Well, to find Haste Rune, they'll also find Zeke. Tracked up? Oh, he was tracked up. This is again. But they lose the puck straight off the bat, and with the counterplays, now Mac with a BKB in the middle, focusing on Kuman. And, well, that is a lot of bursts. Now Alpha Ninja comes through with his own ultimate. Always on flies to sacrifice himself. Eventually here, but Sadoi looking for more. Bignum inside is just rolling over Gambit here at this point. Brian will not keep him alive for too long. Ouch. All I'm gonna say to this one.
Yeah, it just feels like Effect are just so much more ahead, and that was sort of a weird place for Gambit to initiate there, right? The puck sort of jaunted up a hill into a static storm, and I think from there the fight was basically lost. In order for Gambit to win one of these teamfights, I think they have to burst down either the Nature's Prophet or either the Venomancer or the Earthshaker at the start of the fight. And if they don't do that, there's just so much counter initiation coming from the Effect lineup.
Well, they're not only 8k ahead in terms of gold, they also have an Aegis in their pocket, and Mag on the Broodmother is becoming more and more unstoppable.
Broodmother with a Solar Crest, so he's basically immune to All sorts of damage now with the BKB and the Solar Crest, and with an AC on the way.
Last one fly, trying to keep himself alive, but well, we'll get rid of some of the spiderlings, but not the big one.
And we don't usually think about it, but Broodmother is successful in the kind of fights where she's just able to hit people unrestricted, you know, with that insatiable hunger. As long as she's trading hits with people, she's basically always at full health. And so this is sort of a perfect scenario for Mag, and I think with this Aegis effect have sort of lined themselves up for a win condition. I think when they begin to push, Gambit really don't have a way of killing this Broodmother twice.
Yep. Oh, or even once for that matter. Getting harder and harder by the minute as well.
See, Kuman picks up these boots of travels on top of the phase boots, and I think these travels would have been really important to his team in the mid game instead of these phase boots, because his team sort of needed him to.
Oh god, no! Bignum. Sentry ward was plopped down. The dust as well. Azik, Sadar coming through to follow. Just running right into a 3-man lineup. And
it's easy to say this in hindsight, but I think Gambit really needed Kuman to keep the waves out so that his team would stop getting picked off when they were pushing out lanes. But no, it's not too late. He has them now, so he does have the wave clearing ability. The only problem for Kuman is it's kind of dangerous for him to move lane to lane, and I really think that both he and the Bloodseeker need to pick up a BKB in order to win these fights. But I don't think they're gonna let that happen. I think they're just gonna keep mounting the pressure. They're keeping the lanes out. Sort of have these 4 heroes positioned. Actually, they have all of their heroes positioned outside Gambit space.
Very hard for Dahak to actually farm up that BKB. He had it queued up for a while, and he's saving. Yeah, that's what might just help him out. That's the only reason he's even sitting at the amount of money that he has in his inventory.
Radiant's bottom tower has fallen.
He's also got the bottom tower with the catapult being there. Just a little bit of extra money, so they might get there. But Alchemist isn't going for it. Instead, Kuman does have that Octarine core queued up.
I wonder what effect they're waiting for, because you know, well, I suppose they don't really have to jump the gun right now, but it definitely feels like they're in a position to sort of just push. But this Broodmother Mag is approaching his Assault Cuirass, and perhaps that's the item timing that effect they're waiting for.
Yep.
Gambit, they're smoked up, however. They might catch the Earthshaker here.
Well, this would be the time, but blink away means that Kuman will just end up summoning himself more than likely. Yeah, he will. Now perhaps, bit of eternal potential. Mag comes in, pops VKB, finishes up always on the fly immediately now. The Static Storm catches Alchemist. He mantles his way out of it, as well as eating through the Sprout. So he will be walk in, but well, Bignum will just walk into death instead. Double kill from Mag. Now perhaps that's the opening that we're looking for. Our bottom lane is also already being pressured here by creeps and treants. Kuman forced to use his acid spray down there. Now, okay, King R just goes straight up in, bursts them down. Mag to follow onto Dahak. Both of them have buyback, both of them will use it. Jakiro will also be back in the fray, but they've already lost the tier 3 tower, so if effect 1, they can just fall back right now, or they could try and kill Cheshire Cat. Yield Scepters from both sides, as well as the spells from Jakiro. Will make them think twice about it, but they're still hanging around here.
And I suppose
ready to come back up.
I suppose the opportunity to push has sort of presented itself to effect, and you know they're not in a hurry to rush right now. They still have 8 seconds left on this BKB cooldown for Meg, so I imagine they'll go right back in as soon as that BKB is back up. But instead, they reset, looking for the much safer objective. Perhaps take some shrines, keep the lanes out, and wait for the next opportunity to push, I suppose.
Especially with the Aegis about to expire. Much safer to just go for the shrines and follow the Book of Dota, as I like to call it, just a standard place that you see from a team in this position. Yeah. Like, I feel like teams have been becoming a lot better in this, like a couple of months ago even, about just not jumping the gun, not being too aggressive when you don't have all the signs pointing your way.
Of course.
Well, he gets called, brought down. Yeah, I mean, if Gambit keeps giving you these opportunities, why not just wait for another one to come along like that? Top lane.
Kuman up top.
Okay. Could turn into something if he actually has the damage. Ultimate comes back up now. Loi pops the BKB, but right clicks. Ho ho ho! Caught the right tree, or one of the right trees. He actually gets a kill, but now he has to actually defend. Mac ruptured up. He gets glimpsed back! Oh
Classic.
no! Disaster! So Mac, he can just stand there and hit the racks. Rupture on top of him, oh no. Will heal himself up on the creeps with the insatiable hunger lifesteal. Well, so far so good. Dahak still alive and kicking. And, well, Kuman will make his way back on foot. Dexstorm to zone him out, but there it is. Down will land on Broodmother here to get the track off, and it's a really big kill to get if they can finish it off, but they need more damage. Dahak. Oh, never mind. That is actually from the ultimate, or from the Blood Ride, I was gonna say. Half Ninja comes through. Yeah, go slam though on the back. Finish up the supports, as well as setting up for Bloodseeker. Not exactly what they wanted. Kuman just in farming mode. Meanwhile, they get the glimpse back on Cheshire Cat. King R. Well, gets the damage off. He plays way out of this one. Not really. Kuman looking to try and turn things around a little bit. Might get disrupted, but nice little fissure block from King R, making that impossible as well. Such a back and forth here, but Gambit, well, is Kuman dead here or is he not? He will get glimpsed back, his ultimate also expiring into the loving arms of King R, so yeah. The answer is evident, he does not have buyback either. Just used it earlier.
So things looked really good for Gambit there, but with a quick counter initiation from the fact they managed to kill all 5 heroes from Gambit. The good news though for Gambit is that Dahak with that kill on Broodmother got about 1,000 gold, so finished his BKB, and just might give Gambit a, sort of a fighting chance back into this game.
Well, all that set up by the glimpse almost, but also affect the decision to just stick around. Not really leaving anyone to their own devices in the front line.
And so the good news for Gambit is if this game goes long enough, they have 4 Aghanim Scepters carriers for the Alchemist. And then you have the 420 gold per minute on Puck, so Moon Shards on the house, and Aghanim Scepters as well.
Still ways away, unfortunately, for them. Also the -7 second Blood Ray cooldown, also something to look forward to just keep defending high ground.
Oh, taking them.
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, you stepped into the wrong neighborhood, sir.
Feels bad, man. 10 deaths on this poor bounty hunter already. Highest on the game. Ugh.
I like this build for Mafo Ninja, you know. 4-staff Veil into Lotus Orb just makes them extremely hard to kill. The Veil obviously helps them a lot in these teamfights, and I think it's sort of like a cool build considering that you see a lot of Venomancers when they're this farm, they usually go for something like a Hurricane Pike that help them do damage or help them kite, but I think Mafo Ninja sort of just recognized that his role, this job, is just to be as annoying as possible in the middle of the fight so that Mag and Sidoi can sort of do their job.
Also just got himself the Blink Dagger's extra mobility to position himself properly for the Poison Nova. Might just be the nail in the coffin here that they needed up against Gambit.
Because Gambit, you know, 2 of their cores are melee, and Venomancers sort of specialize at kiting heroes.
Oh yeah.
Whenever you're difficult to kill and whenever you have an escape mechanism like 4-staff, it just makes teamfights so much easier for you. And Venomancer's sort of that hero that whenever you play against Venomancer, he's a hero that you need to target but you don't want to, just because, you know, the Venomancer's teamfight objectives are satisfied as soon as he gets his spells off. So if you can't kill him in a hurry, you really don't want to pool too many resources onto him. But at the same time, if you don't, then you take 1 billion damage, and you know, it's always just sad playing against the Venomancer.
Certainly one of the reasons why he's been so popular in this patch. And it's definitely working out for the factors. They're having some TS issues right now. TS in 2017, SMH, etc, etc.
I use TeamSpeak. I'm a TeamSpeak enthusiast.
Oh god.
Been using it for 5 years now. Although I do admit the server goes down once in a while, but at least for my server host, they claim that they're being DDoSed by people DDoSing
yeah.
their Call of Duty servers or Battlefield servers. So it's like they run it on the same server cluster, but I believe they've split it since then. So
You have no idea how
lost.
many times our TeamSpeak server went down. Like, I used it back last regularly when we played PlanetSide a couple years ago. You would have no idea how often that server went down because the provider was DDoS or something.
So I assume that Discord doesn't go down because they're too nice that people will DDoS them. But at the same time, they probably have the infrastructure and sort of
Oh yeah.
the scale to have multiple server clusters or multiple server locations.
Yeah.
Sorry, pronunciation was really bad there, but
They've been scaling higher and higher ever since they started, so there were a few issues, like months ago, I want to say. But ever since then, like, I have not really experienced any big problems with Discord. Boomin actually still gets caught inside the kinetic field. No further follow-up from effect for the time being.
yeah, that ends our advertisement for Discord. Back to the game. Oh, bottom
Just a cat
lane.
caught out. Let's see Eagle Scepter off. Can he blink out? Yeah, he should be able to with the phase shift as well.
Oh.
As he almost got the vision. That's super useful
That's
actually
just
for Gambit.
such a tricky hero to kill sometimes, but
Yeah.
you know, I have to give credit to King R for catching Treasure Cat so many times this game. I think it's part of the reason why this puck has really not taken off this game. I think in an ideal scenario, Treasure Cat would be sort of pushing out lanes all over the place. He would have like a Blink, Yules, Lincolns, maybe even a BKB, running around the map, causing as much trouble as possible. But instead, you know, all of the heroes on Gambit have been relatively tame because of this pressure from effect. And speaking of pressure, you know, getting to work on this Roshan.
Alpha Ninja's movements have been scattered out by Bignum here. Walk by each other and still going for Dahak. Doesn't actually have a TP to make his way out. It's just going to be right click down, especially with Sador, King R, Zeke, everyone coming in. Bit of a disaster here. Roshan, meanwhile, still falls. Bignum, he snatched the Aegis. What a play. He'll still take out immediately to all his damage over time, but I guess worth if they can hold on. There's no buyback on Bloodseeker to defend the high ground now. Might still prove to be enough of an incentive for effect, but the buyback will take back in 20 seconds. Reclaim this mid-rax. They have no creep wave for a little bit. They're cutting it close.
So, Mag still has the cheese, so as long as he's careful with how he uses his BKB, I believe that he'll be fine, and, you know, in fact, more than capable of pushing this tier 3 top.
Pokemon prodding, tier 3 goes down. Catapult's well now back with the BKB, always on a fly. Once again, very sad in this game, and limps back into the static zone. Puck in a lot of trouble as well. Follow-up control is there. He will buy back immediately. 10 seconds still in Bloodseeker, doesn't want to pop his buyback right now. An Alchemist, well, very hard to kill at this point, but also very hard for him to rethrow any sort of meaningful damage, but he's gonna have to. 3 seconds, 2.5 seconds, throwing out that the concoction will be dodged by King R. And just lose the tier 3 as well as the racks up top for nothing really in exchange.
Yeah, but it just feels like Effect are playing so much better than Gambit, but they're also over 20k net worth ahead, and
Oh yeah,
Gambit's,
30k almost.
Gambit's
Holy shit.
heroes are certainly not configured for playing this far behind and in this kind of scenario where the enemy team's able to apply so much pressure, and the enemy team also just has so much more teamfight potential than Gambit.
Yep. You know, it's a bad game when your Alchemist is being eclipsed by any hero, even if it's a Blood Mother. Mag,
And
more net worth
perhaps
than
a
him,
smart
so-
pickup of Radiance from Mag to help achieve that farm speed.
Wish a cat. Always living life on the edge. Normally he's a really good puck player, but this game he just never had really had the opportunity to make something happen. Now Mac just goes straight in for Kuman. Kind of alone, so if they can bring him down now, it would be amazing. But Sador actually comes in with TP, BKB. Very scary indeed. Now the lockdown onto Cheshire Kid again. King R making it happen. Back start to stack up. Now Alchemist, his ultimate. Well, still decent time on it, but it's taking so much damage from Mag and Static Storm. He has to run away. Alpha Ninja in the middle now looking for an angle, and okay, they bring down Mag. No cheese already used, so far so good. Sador in the middle, they also bring him down. Kuman will fall in return. Same for Dahak. Already bought back. Core for core exchange. 2 for 2. 1 buyback forced. Gotta be advantageous for Gambit still though.
Yeah, they narrowed that net worth advantage by about 4k, so bringing it down from 29k to 25k. Gambit, they keep themselves in the game a little bit longer, but ooh, big num.
Yeah, I punch these numbers with my calculator and makes a happy face, that's all I can tell you, so...
Oh!
You gonna take out of
Big
this?
num.
Surely. Oh, wow. Wow.
That last tick did 100 with Veil.
Dahak. Next one. Dual Scepters up, but it's not gonna actually dispel the Gale or the Poison Sting. More stuff. To the wrong direction here. I think so much damage. Alpha Ninja, yeah, he's coming back in to try and get that kill. And you might find it actually. Mimo on the front, Starkstone comes out. Keep our Zeke alive and, well, getting always on the fly at the very least. Dahak able to make his way up to the fountain. Surely someone has to buy back here to defend this bottom Rex.
Well,
Maybe
it's
not.
just a Venomancer hitting at the moment, but it's kind of an opening here for Nature's Prophet to take this Rex.
Yeah. At the very least, tier 3 will fall. Dahak trying to delay this as much as he can. They really need their alchemists to start showing up heavily, but no, Treasure Cat dies again in the meantime. Alpha Ninja King R just playing with the food at this point. Kind of missing that timing a little bit. Dahak now popping this BKB, but Gambit should still end up falling here with the Aqua Slam. And now, nice little double stun there from the Alchemist, but he gets stunned up in return. Azik, first one to fall. Dahak pretty damn fast on his feet, but cannot withstand all of this damage. Stun thrown out from Kuman. Dahak will die though with no buyback. Kuman now, Mac taking over. It's just way too strong up against the Salk. Another buyback, but, well, writing's on the wall for this one, regardless. Mega Creeps are up and running. Kuman will stun himself, and Mac might just be looking for another kill, forcing him all the way back to the fountain. Well, just a matter of when they call GG at this point. I really don't think the Kuman, Kuman can't really carry this 1v5. He gets Sador, so hey, that's good. 1200 gold, easy. But yeah, GG has already been called.
And so, you know, Team Effect, they played extremely well. I think all of their players did their job this game, and especially King R for catching, or King R and RZ for catching out so many of Gambit's heroes. And, you know, it looked kind of shaky there because Effect didn't really deal with the Alchemist, but at the same time, perhaps I was wrong, and Effect actually knew their timing perfectly, because as soon as, you know, as soon as their cores got all of the items they needed, Effect just started running Gambit over, and Gambit had no space to come back. They didn't have an initiator. I think in order for Gambit to really win this game, they had to get as many kills as possible, but Effect didn't leave any openings, and they win this game quite handily, actually.
Yeah. So well played indeed. Gambit not having the best time today, already lost 2-0 to Team Empire, and now perhaps on the verge of a 2-0 as well if Effect can repeat their performance. Just a reminder, this is an elimination series here in the Perfect World Masters CIS qualifier, so Gambit lose one more, and then they're out for good. My name is Dragondrop, I'm joined by Franz. We will take a short break, but we will be back for game number 2 soon, so don't go too far away.